Right, hopefully I'm live here. Should be. So I just wanted to jump on here and talk about an issue that's facing, I think it's my phone telling me I'm live, facing sleep story channels at the moment. It hasn't affected mine yet, although I do have some stories on my channels which might make it affect my channel. And it's something which I don't really know what the answer is unless people entirely create all their own content, but then it looks like you're going to have to try and prove that as well. So probably a month or so ago, I learned about a channel, I sort of stumbled across a video of another sleep story channel where they were sharing that YouTube out the blue had demonetized them. And I kind of watched their video. I can't remember which channel it was. It was a channel I hadn't heard of before, a small channel. So I watched their video, and it was saying that they just out the blue had been demonetized. They wanted to know what they had done wrong, what it was that they were doing wrong, because they were doing sleep stories, predominantly reading out of print, out of copyright works, but in their own style. So I kind of clicked on a couple of the videos and see what sort of things they posted, and they were just normal videos like you would get on my channels, where I've read, for example, Sherlock Holmes, and I've read other vintage novels and things, and I'll read them in kind of a soft, relaxing voice, and essentially making an audio book. And the written word, the sort of written work of it, and the sort of the work that I'm referring to is obviously out of copyright, and so it's allowed to be used. It's in the public domain. It's allowed to be used, and so obviously my perspective is, what difference is there between me making my version of an audio book version of something in my style, or another creator doing it in their style, versus, say, a random company taking these out of copyright works and getting, hiring someone, perhaps known celebrity or something, to read that out of copyright work, or even, for example, having some famous person read it for their sleep app or something like Calm or whatever. So that channel was doing the stories in their style, and they kind of said that they'd appealed, and they were told that the issue was that the reason they've been demonetized was that their work wasn't transformed enough or transformative enough. It didn't add enough value. Their input in the work didn't add enough value for an audience on YouTube, which I think is rubbish. So that they appealed, and they had their appeal rejected. I didn't think too much of it, other than thinking that's a bit annoying. I'd watched, so after that, I'd watched I think it was a vidIQ video. So vidIQ are a kind of a company which YouTubers can use with your channel to try to look at how best to hello Holly. It means this is working. This is my first live video on this channel ever, which is why I've done it here, because I've thought, let's see if I can go live on this channel. So yes, a vidIQ are a company that you can install a plugin on your computer, and then you can get information about how things perform, etc. But they also have a YouTube channel where they share updates from them talking to YouTube and from what YouTube announces as different things. And one thing they spoke about was that YouTube had just started, had made some changes to their rules, and had just started coming down heavily on channels that use a lot of stock footage, on channels that use a lot of content that isn't their own, where the creator isn't on camera, and they're really coming down hard on those sort of channels. And so at the time, I kind of heard that and thought, I'm almost never on camera. because I'm just reading something and you don't want to see me on camera, or making it up off the top of my head. You don't necessarily want to see me on camera doing that, or you don't need to. And that it's about what YouTube deems as adding value to the video, to the end user. So thank you for finding the work helpful. So I sort of saw that, and that kind of raised, that mixed with seeing this other channel, raised a few more alarm bells. Then I discovered another 2 channels in one day, both in the same boat. Both have been demonetized, and both predominantly focused on reading classic novels. So, as I've said, things like Sherlock Holmes, Alice in Wonderland, Frankenstein, Dracula, all those sort of things. So their main focus was still on that, and their channels have been demonetized. And so, yeah, it is a cool cats on unicorn in space. Sounds like the kind of thing I would write or tell. So they had their channels demonetized, and at the point of being demonetized, there was no real explanation for why. They then went through the whole process of, why's my channel been demonetized? I literally don't do anything that breaks any terms and conditions of YouTube. And I think one of them had said that they'd appealed and won, and one of them had appealed and lost, but was trying to, I think you have to wait 30 days and then you can appeal again. So those channels have all been focused predominantly on just reading the works of others, but doing it in their own way. So one of the channels, the guy puts on all the different voices. So puts on character voices for the different characters while reading, something you would never catch me doing. But they put on all the different character voices. So obviously that is transforming the word. It's just written words that's out of copyright. So you're allowed to use it. And they then put on the voices for the different kind of, like they'll put on a voice for Sherlock Holmes and a voice for Watson and a voice for the different characters that crop up in the story, or whatever it happens to be that they're reading. And so obviously I'm hearing it thinking, that is transformative. That is adding value. People who want that would... hello, Abby. You're not working at the moment. You got a few moments off. So that was that channel. Then I saw, I think it's Snooze with Sam, and stumbled upon their video saying that they've had exactly the same issue as well. That very good. Hope you enjoy your break. So they've done a video saying that they've been hit with the same problem, that they've also been demonetized, and that it's because they apparently don't add enough value. The difference with Snooze with Sam compared to some of the others I've just mentioned, which are all channels I'd never heard of before, is that some of the things on their channel are definitely not stuff where they're essentially just reading Sherlock Holmes, for example. That seems to be my go-to in my head thing that people read. So they had their channel demonetized. I don't know if they've got monetization back yet, but obviously they add their own music, they add their own sound effects, they don't just read novels, sort of out of print novels. So obviously the point I'm making there is that it's all not out of copyright novels. So the point I'm making is it's work that you're allowed to be reading or be using because it's in the public domain. So they had been hit with the same issue. And the problem with this is that obviously essentially it's YouTube cancelling these channels because they stop allowing ad revenue on the videos. If you don't have the ad revenue and you can't monetize, you're not monetizing your content, then the amount of time it takes to actually make the content means that it stops being viable. So if you, for example, spend yeah, I've heard that as well, that YouTube seem to not like sleep story channels because there's not enough ads on videos. And one channel which was demonetized had that as the issue. Had sort of, at least their view was that the issue was that their videos are like long videos, and advertisers don't like that the ads can't show on those videos. And if they do show on those videos, people are asleep. And if people are asleep, then the advert is being paid for by a company and not being shown, technically not gaining anything because the person's asleep on the other end of it. But yeah, if someone spends, say, 40, 50, 60 hours or whatever making a video, and at the end of that, you can't do any other work for that period of time because you've been putting all those hours into doing that one bit of work, and then all of a sudden you've got YouTube demonetizing your channel, you then can't make the videos because you need to make a living. And so that's kind of the problem, is that essentially they're then cancelling the channels, because the channels, like Snooze with Sam obviously said in their video, that they're going to have to not make more of they've got some up and coming videos, but they can't make more videos until they've got this issue addressed. So it's a problem that initially looked like it was just affecting channels where your main focus is reading other works. So for example, I know, I can't remember the names of the various channels off the top of my head. I think it's Soothing Pod. I can't remember. There's a channel that has done a lot of reading of things like Poirot and things like that. That's very, very successful for them. And so then there's a risk that they might get hit with, because you're reading those bits and pieces, because you're reading these works and it's just you reading them, we're going to stop allowing you to have adverts on your videos, which means that, you make no money. And so you then don't post on YouTube because you don't make any money out of doing so. Because a challenge with sleep videos is, I've not yet found a way of comfortably integrating, having sponsored videos. So I've not yet found a way of comfortably putting a sponsored ad, so to speak, in the video without it then disrupting the viewer. So I've been approached, for example, by face mask companies saying, we've got this sleep mask, would you talk about it and have us sponsor your videos, and then you can talk about it on camera, and talk about it for your video. But if I put in like a 4 or 5 minute sponsored segment at the beginning talking about a face mask, it kind of disrupts from the person is just jumping on to go to sleep at that moment in time. They don't want 4 minutes of me talking about a face mask, or me talking about a pillow, or talking, what else? I've been asked to talk about microphone. I've had a company that wants me to do microphones. So it's very hard to make that money in an alternative way here on YouTube. So it's I'm just trying to read the comments as well. It's very hard to meditate with ads. They have a number of issues. So I'm sticking as far as I can to one specific issue here. There are obviously other issues that I've spoken about before. For example, the fact that YouTube gives the creator the chance to say where you want adverts in your video, like the beginning, middle, end. And in the middle, YouTube gives you the chance to say where in the middle of the video you want adverts. So obviously, myself, and I assume every single other sleep story and meditation creator, and anyone who does something like that, so maybe ASMR videos, etc., none of us select the option to put adverts in the middle or at the end of our videos. I very strongly believe that none of us will be doing it. So if you ever see ads in the middle or at the end of any video that's meditation, sleep, or anything like that, it is probably YouTube overruling the creator. So that's a separate issue, that even when you do have ads, because YouTube wants to show as many adverts as possible, they will overrule the creator and they will put adverts in the middle of videos, and they're doing that to me currently, occasionally, but nowhere near as bad as they used to back in, say, up to 2020-ish. But they have still done it. I do still get a couple of comments a week from people saying that they had adverts in the middle of my videos. They can't sleep if I put adverts in my videos. Why am I putting ads in my videos? And I just explained that it's not me. Ads should never show. I have them turned off. It's YouTube. So as a separate issue, YouTube wants as many ads shown to people as possible. So YouTube puts ads in videos where the creator has the adverts turned off, which makes me think, why bother even giving the creator the alleged freedom for that? But yeah, we should all have the same equal opportunity to share content. There isn't another platform that's the same kind of standing as YouTube. So I've looked, and it'd be brilliant if there was, but I've looked and there doesn't seem to be any platform that has enough of an audience to make it so that you can earn some income as a creator and serve an audience, and obviously not have the issues you get with YouTube. And that's part of the problem, I think, that YouTube has the monopoly on these sort of things. So Dailymotion, for example, has huge issues. It's a terrible service to try, a platform to try and use. Veo is awful and full of pop-up ads, and it's a terrible service to use. Vimeo costs money, and if you're going to use it like a YouTuber would use it, so post very, very frequent content, and it's not going to make you the kind of money back for most people. So it's generally very good from a business perspective and for hosting videos for like on websites and things like that. But as a YouTube alternative, it's not good. So there's no kind of popular alternative to YouTube that creators can say, well, I'll go and do that instead. I've got content on Odyssey, which is Odyssee, but Odyssey doesn't really have much of an audience at the moment. So I've got content on there, but it doesn't really have much of an audience. So it's not like I could just jump ship and use Odyssey instead. And because of things like Snooze with Sam and his videos, where his videos are, he goes and gets his own sounds. He literally goes out, for example, onto the beach or out into nature, and he'll audio record sound effects that he can then use in his videos. He will go and do his own music that can then be used in videos. He'll do a lot of his own stuff, and he'll do stuff that isn't just reading, say, Sherlock Holmes or something. And yet YouTube is coming down on him because, I'm assuming, because a part of his content is reading other stuff, reading others' works, even though he is transforming it, and his audience will openly say that he transforms their lives. He's got a brilliant voice for it, etc., and helps with sleep and everything. But from YouTube's perspective, they don't see it as transformative enough and offering enough value to the audience. But I think it's more enough value to YouTube not being able to get the ads on the videos. So it's I kind of wanted to come on here and just talk briefly about this. That would be a big thing if everyone just suddenly quit YouTube at once. If the very big YouTubers jumped ship, that would probably have a bit of an impact. Slumber, I think, now make all their own tracks in-house. They used to, for example, approach me, among other people. They used to want regular content from creators, and I was always happy to make them exclusive content as well, but they don't really approach creators now. But yeah, so another thing that they seem to be coming down on is people who use aspects of, so do fan fiction almost. So for example, if so I was on my other channel, I've been trying to think what locations, what kind of places I can do stories about, and I was thinking there are a lot of fictional places that would be fun to do stories about, like places from Lord of the Rings, um, places from a number of different kind of anime shows and things like that. That'd be really interesting locations to do stories about, where you're not going to use the main characters of the original works. You're just essentially doing a fan fiction, sort of fan sleep story type of thing. But they seem to be coming down on that as well. So you already can't use, and I know the Honest guys have had this issue of attempting to make sure, for example, that they can do, say, a Hobbit or Lord of the Rings themed story, but they can't use certain words and phrases and certain character names, because if they use those words, phrases, and character names, they're breaching the current copyrights of those bits of work, because obviously Lord of the Rings, etc., are still in copyright, so you're not allowed to use them. And it's the same with, for example, Star Wars. So as most of you probably know, I did some bits and pieces for the Church of Jediism, where they asked if I would make some courses for them. And so I made some courses for them. But there's obviously a whole thick booklet, thick sort of A4 pages, thick booklet of, here are things you are not allowed to do. You're not allowed to use words like Jedi. You are not allowed to kind of use certain terms and certain characters in what you're doing. And the same goes for if you do Star Trek fan fiction, Star Wars fan fiction, whatever it happens to be. You're not allowed to use certain terms and certain things which are kind of canon or copyright to those different different kind of works. So, for example, I could do a Star Wars themed story based on Endor, but I wouldn't be allowed to necessarily use Endor as a name. I'd probably have to come up with a vague way of talking about it. I wouldn't be able to, lightsaber, I think, is one you're not allowed to use. I wouldn't be able to, for example, talk about Jedis, talk about Ewoks, talk about all the things which are on like a book that you can get that says, here are the things you're not allowed to do when writing your fan fiction. So it just makes it very awkward to do these things. So YouTube seems to be coming down also on creators that do some of that, creators that aren't necessarily doing anything about, they're not reading old works. They're literally writing and creating something entirely original, except that they're using a world that's created by someone else, like Lord of the Rings, Dune, Star Wars, whatever it happens to be. They're taking a world that someone else has created and basing their own story within that world that they can then do as a sleep story. And so it's just getting harder to, obviously, with the advert thing of YouTube putting adverts in the middle of videos when the creator says, I don't want adverts in the middle of the video because people are trying to sleep to this, or they're trying to meditate to this, or whatever it happens to be. They're also now literally just demonetizing channels out the blue. People are just waking up and seeing that their channel's been demonetized with no real explanation at first. And then when they do find out, the explanation is, this is demonetized because, we don't feel you're offering value here in the videos you're making. And even that's very vague. You're not offering value. Who is deciding on that value? And I know one creator literally made a video showing to YouTube, look, here's my workflow. Here's me making the sounds. Here's me, listen, I'm the one making this video explaining what I'm doing. This is the same voice that you hear on the video. Just because I'm not on camera doesn't mean that this isn't me. it is me who's doing it, because they were like, we can't even prove that you're the one who's making the video. So that was another thing that came up, is that some people have been told that because you're not on camera physically doing the reading, you've got it, say, on a black screen or images and things over the screen, they are then saying, we don't believe that it's your voice and that it's you who's doing that, that video. And then even when the person's on camera saying, look, this is my face, my mouth is moving, the voice that you hear out my mouth is the same as the one in my videos, there's at least one creator where they were still told, we still don't believe that that's you. You've still got to come up with better proof that the videos are made actually by you and that it's you who's in the videos. So yeah, it's then making it harder, and it's, so far I don't think I've seen a big channel hit with this. I probably would have heard about it if a big channel had been hit like this, but definitely a lot of smaller channels that are doing very well and been growing really well, and then they're suddenly hit with this kind of, you're demonetized and you're going to have to jump through hoops to try, with us giving you no explanation, to try to get monetized again. And obviously the only thing you can really do is support the creator on things like Patreon, so that they're not so reliant on YouTube and on YouTube ad revenue. If the creator can find a way of having sponsorships during the video, which means that then the viewer has to be comfortable with knowing that that 3-4 minute sponsorship segment at the beginning of the video before getting into the sleep stuff is there so that they can give you the sleep stuff you're after. It's trying to kind of see if there's alternative ways around it so that the creator doesn't have to be so reliant on being monetized and making the money specifically from YouTube ad revenue, which isn't a lot anyway. You're always relying on getting a lot of views so that you can get that revenue. But yeah, it's just trying to sort of work with that and find alternatives, with creators being able to work with their own audiences and find solutions. Yeah, I wish that I had more patrons as well. Obviously, I like the ones that I've got. And as I've frequently said, even back when I started Patreon, I said that the kind of dream scenario is to have enough patrons so that essentially I work for the patrons and not always at the mercy of things like YouTube algorithms and stuff like that. I remember when I set up Patreon last August, so we're nearly at a year now, thinking it would be good if I can get enough people here so that I don't have to care so much about YouTube and all these other things. Instead, it can be, what do you want me to create? I'll create it, and sort of here it is. I will see you when you finish. Hope you have a good afternoon. So yeah, and likewise, there's other stuff that it takes a lot of hours to do what I have to do for YouTube. So there's a lot of stuff which I would like to be able to just say to patrons, what would you like me to create here? What would you like me to do? And just do lots of stuff for Patreon, because I prefer the idea of doing stuff for people that are actually paying for it, rather than doing stuff for, not that I necessarily mind doing stuff for people that get it for free, but you know what I mean, doing stuff where the revenue comes from ad revenue. I'd rather sort of think I'm doing this because you're paying me to do it, kind of thing. And so I can give you what you want. Yeah, YouTube has never really given exact reasons for things. It doesn't tell you. So, for example, when I left YouTube briefly back in 2020, so I didn't technically leave YouTube. I still posted on the Mind Changers channel with David, and I still posted a couple of scheduled videos onto my Sleep Stories channel, and I still made a video on that channel as well. I just didn't post any brand new stories, individual stories. But in that period of time, YouTube wouldn't tell me any details about what led to adverts being in my videos. All they would do is initially deny that adverts were in my videos, and then obviously a whole bunch of you complained to YouTube, and I was obviously complaining to YouTube, and YouTube then said, we seem to have got a lot of complaints from your viewers about adverts in your videos. You need to think twice before putting so many ads in your videos. That's kind of how YouTube approached me initially. And so I then responded to them saying, they're complaining because you put ads in my videos. They're not complaining because I put ads in my videos. And so they then said, no, we don't do that. That doesn't happen. But because people had complained, it got YouTube actually talking and engaging with me, rather than it just being me on my own and YouTube kind of thinking, go away, we don't care about you. But when they said, right, problem's fixed, it won't happen again, which it has happened again. But when they said problem's fixed, it won't happen again, I said, right, well, before I go live and post another video, I just want to know what the problem actually was, so that I know that it won't happen again, so that I know, right, the problem was that it was a software glitch or whatever it happens to be. And so I can understand that you've definitely fixed it and you're not just telling me you fixed it. And they said, no, we don't tell people that sort of information. You just got to trust that it won't happen again. And I was like, yeah, but in 2018, you were denying it happened and it kept happening. And then you said it won't happen. It was just obviously a glitch. When I eventually proved through being sent videos and things from viewers that it was happening, it continued happening through 2019. And it obviously reached a head when it was just ridiculous in that one video that it happened in, where it was like an ad every 3 minutes throughout a whole hour-long video, which is over the top. And it was that point that it was like, this is just stupid now. They've got to sort this out properly before I can post, because of the impact it was having on my reputation. Because obviously all the comments were from people thinking I put the ads there and not YouTube. So obviously a lot of you replied to those people. So obviously just trusting them wasn't good enough. In the end, I did have to just trust them, or else I wouldn't have ended up posting videos again, and no one would have any videos from 2020 onwards. But yeah, this new issue, they're being very vague over what they tell you and why. And it's not just YouTube that does this. I watched a video recently of somebody who had their eBay account shut down, and they'd been with eBay from like the end of the 1990s, right from pretty much when eBay was running, but as a buyer, and they'd been as a seller for like a decade or something, and then they suddenly had their account shut down, and eBay wouldn't talk to them about it and just said, no, we're not going to engage with you, your account's shut down, we've decided it's too high risk, so we've shut your account down. And they were like, I literally just sell secondhand fashion. Why is it shut down? And they wouldn't give any answers. They said, no, when we've made this decision, that's it, it's final. They wouldn't give any answers. And eventually the person found another person who was still with eBay, who hadn't had their account shut down, who gave them a number that they got access to that this person didn't have access to because their account was closed. And they said they phoned that number and they were told, the reason your account's closed, shouldn't really tell you this, but the reason your account's closed is because we tried phoning you to confirm your identity and you didn't answer the phone. And they were like, so you tried once to telephone me, and because I didn't answer my phone that one time, you've permanently banned my account and banned. So this person not only had their account banned, but their account was banned based on their IP. So nobody at their home address, could set up another eBay account as a buyer or a seller. Nobody at the address. So her husband couldn't buy or sell anything. Her kids couldn't buy or sell anything. She couldn't buy or sell anything, just because she didn't get this, because she didn't answer one phone call. There was no kind of, you didn't answer the security phone call, and so we've sent you an email to tell you, oh, by the way, we've sent you a phone call. If you don't respond to us in X amount of time, we're going to have to cancel your account. they literally just, oh, no answer, delete their account. So it's obviously not just YouTube. It's when you're reliant on big companies, they have their own rules. I know I don't answer random calls either, so there's always that high chance that it could happen, and because you didn't answer that one random call, you end up having your account deleted. They got their account reinstated eventually. It took them a long time though, and it was very difficult for them. But yeah, I wouldn't speak to them. But yeah, so it's not just YouTube obviously that does these random things, but and currently, at least, so if your creator, so if you follow a creator and suddenly their account is demonetized, and say they do sleep stories, meditations, whatever, the best thing is to obviously be supportive of them. Obviously, if you can support them on things like Patreon, then do that, or in other ways do that. Because if they can get the income without requiring YouTube, then that helps. But other than that, it's, yes, also complain, for example, to YouTube about it potentially. It may or may not help. I think it's sometimes more a case, which is partly why I'm making this video, because it hasn't happened to me yet. But I am aware, for example, that I do have me reading Frankenstein, me reading one of the sort of Dracula prequel bit, me reading, I don't know, can't remember what other things, me reading different bits and pieces. So there is videos of me reading out of copyright works on my channels. So there is a chance that they might kind of suddenly demonetize me, but it hasn't yet happened. But why I'm obviously, or the sort of main motivation for making the video is that I know it's happening to a number of people, and it seems to be happening more frequently over the last few weeks. There's suddenly an explosion of people saying that it's happened to their channel, and especially a lot of small channels that don't really have a voice, channels that maybe have fewer than 10,000 subscribers, who are just trying to get started, and they're already getting demonetized. They've only just been monetized, and then they're getting demonetized randomly by YouTube. And so it's more sort of a case of, I think it's helpful if we all are working together and banding together as a bunch of creators who make sleep meditations, sleep stories, ordinary meditations, whatever kind of videos where this is happening to us, so that we can work together and kind of say this is actually an issue that's happening to us. Again, I don't even know if that would make any difference, but at least if you're a bunch of creators working together as a collective voice, there's a chance that YouTube might kind of notice, because my suspicion is that it's a YouTube algorithm that hits the channel and makes that decision, not a real human being. So an algorithm probably hits a channel, decides that the channel doesn't have doesn't have the face on screen of the creator, doesn't have is reading something that is in their system as being a prior work, like Sherlock Holmes, for example. Someone has Sherlock Holmes mentioned, and so the algorithm thinks, Sherlock Holmes, that's a prior thing, that's not a new thing, they're not original, let's kind of delete the monetization for this channel. So my suspicion is, however the algorithm works, that's what the problem is. The same thing kind of happened a bunch of years ago when YouTube did a monetization update, and lots of channels, it didn't affect me, luckily, but a lot of channels were hit as not appropriate for monetization, especially things like gaming channels where people would be playing things like Grand Theft Auto, and they had to jump through hoops to try and get YouTube to give them monetization back, saying, look, I'm not posting unreasonable content, etc. And that's very, very kind. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of jump on here and and share that it's an issue that we're facing. I doubt that I could do them for disability discrimination, but it is one of those things that they don't seem to appreciate the help that not just my channel, but a lot of these channels give. There's a lot of these channels that are incredibly helpful to people who struggle with sleep, or struggle with anxiety or depression or pain or whatever. And then we're out there creating content that we hope is helpful. And then YouTube comes along and says, we're going to take away your ability to make money. And because they take away the ability to make money, you can't put the hours into doing it, because obviously, unfortunately, we live in a world where we need to make money to survive. Yeah, there is. So that is a whole other issue, is the fact that YouTube treats stuff as made for kids. So again, when that came in, the whole made for kids thing, there was a fear that that was going to affect a lot of channels, because there are people, for example, that make Minecraft videos, but they're not a kids Minecraft video channel. They just happen to play Minecraft, perhaps while talking, and they may talk in a very adult way. They may swear or whatever, because they're talking to an audience of a certain kind of age group that's their audience, that suits them as a personality or whatever. And then you've got YouTube saying Minecraft, that's a kids game, so that's going to be targeted at kids. But you also, for example, if I make a sleep story for children, that's a children's sleep story, and it's kind of why I have to, even though literally any sleep story I make, anyone who's made it awake through a whole of one of my stories would know there's not a single point in any of my stories where there's anything that wouldn't be perfectly fine for a young child to listen to. There's no reason specifically from a content perspective why only an adult can listen to my stories. The difficulty is that the way that YouTube works is that if I just said bedtime stories, YouTube would treat it as children's bedtime stories, and then they would mark all my content as children's content, and then I'd make no income. But along with it, anything flagged as children's, you're not allowed to have comments on, so no one can then comment on the video. You're not allowed to have targeted advertising, so advertisers then don't bother putting ads on the videos, because if they can't target the ads, that's not financially viable for them. So you're not allowed targeted advertising on your videos. You're not allowed comments on your videos. You're not allowed to have the videos shared as widely. So there's lots of restrictions because it's marked as for children rather than for adults. And my view is that that should be a parent's issue, that if a parent is logged into their YouTube account, and the terms and conditions do very specifically say you're not allowed to have a YouTube account if you're a child. So in theory, if you're a child, you're not allowed a YouTube account. So if you're on YouTube and you're a child, then your parent is letting you be on YouTube as a child, or they're not monitoring you enough. It shouldn't be YouTube's decision. It shouldn't be YouTube saying that. And I know why they've done it. It's because the US government, I think it was US government, I can't remember, might have been the EU, said that you can't show adverts to kids, and you can't prove that the parent isn't letting their child see the videos. So if there's a chance that the videos could be something a child could want to watch, then it has to be marked as for kids, even though there is a YouTube for kids, specifically for kids. But the trouble there is that, for example, there was a creator who made a video that was most definitely not for kids, and YouTube, they marked it as appropriate, as not for kids, and YouTube then went along and turned it into a for kids video, saying no, that is for kids. They appealed it and said no, there's adult content in this, it's definitely not for kids. YouTube then said, no, we've reviewed this, manually reviewed this, they said. And so YouTube then kept it as for kids. But then the difficulty is that if that video that's not for kids is watched by kids and a parent complains that kids were watching a video that was inappropriate, the creator is the one who gets in trouble for it and gets their channel shut down. So that creator was like, YouTube are showing adult content on their YouTube for Kids platform because they mark my content that I mark as not for kids, for kids. And when I've appealed, they've said, yeah, we've manually reviewed it. It's for kids. Whatever you say, we think it's for kids. And so they're then showing it to kids, even though it's totally inappropriate for kids. And there's a lot of content on YouTube for kids that's like that, where the creator doesn't want it shown for kids because it's not appropriate for kids. YouTube says, yes, it is. YouTube then shows it to the kids. A parent then says, my child just watched a kitten get ran over by a car or something like that. And so then the creator gets, I'm just using that as a random example because it's something a kid shouldn't see. YouTube then gets, blames the creator, even though the creator said, well, I did tell you it's not for kids. YouTube then blames the creator and shuts down the creator's account. But the creator said it isn't for kids. YouTube said it is. So YouTube make the decision and then blame the creator if YouTube's decision is wrong, which is just stupid. It does seem to want to create problems at times. There's also a lot of content. So obviously saying there's a lot of content that's violating rules that is questionable and dangerous, etc. There is a lot of content which I can't even remember where I was going now. I thought, let's read the questions so that anyone who can't see the live chat would know what I'm reading. Yeah, there is a lot of content that I'm sure the thought will come back to me in a bit. But no, not me too. So this hasn't happened to me yet. I'm hoping it doesn't. So I say yet, I'm hoping it never happens to me. But it is an issue that is happening increasingly to creators like me. And so I want to kind of raise this with people who watch my channel and other channels, but also kind of for other creators like me who maybe haven't had it happen to them and may not be aware that there's a risk of this. So the things that reduce the risk, it seems, are where you're creating all your own content. So if you don't read out of copyright works, even though technically you're not breaking any rules or laws or anything by reading out of copyright works. If I read an out of copyright copy of Sherlock Holmes, there's nothing wrong with me doing that. Legally, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me doing that. There's no difference between me reading that out of copyright copy of Sherlock Holmes and saying, here's a Dan Jones audiobook of this, or sleep version of an audiobook or whatever, done in my style, versus, I don't know, HarperCollins getting hold of an out of copyright copy of Sherlock Holmes and making their own audiobook version with Stephen Fry reading Sherlock Holmes. There's literally no difference, except that the Stephen Fry version wouldn't get cancelled by YouTube. The Dan Jones version probably would. So not using, so the best way to kind of avoid this happening to other creators like me is to make all your own stories literally from scratch. Just come up with everything yourself. Frustratingly, because this is stupidly hard work and we're not all, I'm definitely not, we're not all skilled at making music and stuff. Not using stock music, stock sound effects, which is very hard. I try and use my own sound effects where I can, but I do use stock sound effects at times as well. Not using stock video footage in videos. So essentially you have to make the whole video 100% yourself, or paid for by you if you get creators to do bits, and not, going to stock websites and getting bits from the stock websites. If you need to kind of not be reading out of copyright works, whatever they are, even though legally you're allowed to. YouTube seems to currently frown upon it, or even using other IP, so other intellectual property. Like, for example, if you wanted to make a Lord of the Rings themed story, then even though it's just Lord of the Rings themed, and you may not have like Gandalf and Frodo, etc., crop up, because you know that would instantly flag your channel. Even just the fact that you're doing something that is Lord of the Rings themed, YouTube seems to then have a problem with that. And even though technically you're not doing anything wrong, YouTube then demonetizes channels that are doing that. So not doing that, and yeah, basically the only thing you can do is literally do everything yourself from scratch, or paying people yourself to do it, so that the work that they create on your behalf, for example, if you pay a musician to make some music, obviously you can pay that one musician to make that one piece of original music that you then use. But yeah, it's a bit of a pain though, because you shouldn't have to do that. I think the difficulty is most of YouTube is run by algorithms, and so you're always at the mercy of algorithms. And I think YouTube has pretty much been for profit of the company since near the beginning, since as soon as it was aware that there was a chance to make the profit. But like with Twitter and all these other sites, the question comes down to, how are we going to monetize the platform? And sometimes there's a big period of time where things are good for the consumer because the company hasn't yet figured out the monetization process that they're going to use. And so while they haven't figured it out, they don't implement anything. So it's not that they're doing it for the people. They literally are just, the people are lucky because they haven't yet figured out how to monetize it, or how best to monetize it. And then as soon as they do figure that out, that monetization drives everything from there on. So, for example, YouTube wants to keep eyes on its platform for as long as possible. So what's very important to YouTube is watch time and how long you keep people on the site. So if someone watches your video, and then whenever they watch that specific video, say it's a 3-minute video, if whenever they watch that specific video, they nearly always click on a specific end screen video and then watch that, and then nearly always click on an end screen video from that one to another one, YouTube will show a lot of people that first video, because they know that a lot of people end up watching the whole playlist of those videos back to back, so stay on the platform for a long time. So even if that first video is short, YouTube prioritizes showing it, say, over a 45-minute video. Say there's a 3-minute video, that someone will watch that 3-minute video and then watch, say, 4 hours of videos back to back by watching the subsequent videos, versus someone watches a 45-minute video and normally only watches one video after it or something. YouTube will think, well, yeah, that video had them, most people stick watching it for 45 minutes, but no one then went on to watch a video after it, or very few people did that. So that doesn't get as much watch time on the platform. People's eyes leave the platform. So YouTube is very driven around how can you keep people staring at the screen for the longest, and that way they can show you ads. And videos that have more ads in, obviously, are that people watch. Obviously YouTube makes more money the more ads people watch. The creator does as well, but YouTube makes more money the more ads people watch. So obviously they've got an interest in showing more videos that people watch ads in, and less videos where people, like my videos or whoever's, where the creator doesn't put ads in the videos. And so, unless you've got vast amounts of views so it makes it worthwhile, YouTube will rather show people a shorter video or something different that makes people then go on to the next video, rather than, say, I don't know, rather than them show, say, an 8-hour video like a sleep compilation of mine, they'll think, well, someone watches one ad and then they don't watch any ads for 8 hours. That's not particularly in YouTube's favor. Whereas if someone watches an hour-long video or a half-hour-long video, and then that goes on to a second video and a third video and a fourth video through the whole night, for example, YouTube don't know it's through the whole night and that the person's actually asleep, but where it goes on through the whole night, that's going to make it so that from YouTube's perspective, every time it changes video, there's at least one ad showing. So even if it's still the same, there's only an ad at the beginning, YouTube prefers that and prefers to show that. Yeah, I'm not getting the plasma ball down. I'd probably fall off everything trying to get it down. And I've got, again, I'm not going to show it right now, but I've got like the glasses here. The sort of ones that have the lights in to do the sound light thing and change your brain waves. That's next to me. I do have lots of these little science toys. Somewhere, no, I've moved it out of sight, I think. Somewhere I've got my brain thing, my Neurosky brain thing that you just sort of put on your head, and then it has an electrode that is touching your forehead. Yep. YouTube do have a tendency to auto pause, and well, by default, I think YouTube, and when it does its updates, sometimes, like especially with apps and things, it defaults the app to how it wants the app to be used, and so it will default to things like having autoplay on, having auto pause on if something's been going on too long. But yeah, it is quite a challenge. And the trouble is, you feel like you're moaning when you do a video like this, when actually I'm just trying to be informative and make people aware, because there might be people that aren't aware. And there are some creators who I think have they haven't done a video to their subscribers to say, this is why I've stopped posting, because you don't want to be the one who sounds like you're moaning and saying, and people have a problem with creators making money. So I've had people comment saying, you shouldn't be doing YouTube for the money. Everything should always be free. You should be doing it because you want to do it, not doing it because you're making money. But the reality of the matter is that if I don't make an income, I can't do it. I have to make an income somehow in my life. And if I'm putting so many hours into, say, creating content on YouTube, then if YouTube stops making me any income, meaning that I have no money, I still have to pay rent and all my bills and everything. And so I then have to think, right, I need to make money. But then because I'm putting, say, 40, 50, 60 hours a week now into the other way of making money, I then don't have time in my life anymore to do YouTube. So it isn't that you're doing, I think everyone would love everything to always be free and, to not have to worry about money as being the motivator. But yeah, it's, I think some people have been affected by this issue and have chosen not to post why they've suddenly stopped posting in more than just a community post, because of the fact that if you post, YouTube has stopped monetizing my channel, and so I can't afford to make these videos anymore. You do get backlash. A couple of years back, I had backlash from people when I said that, when YouTube wasn't, before I turned into a sleep stories channel. And I kind of had some people saying, because I had to focus on my e-courses, and so I cut down from 5 videos a day to 3 videos, 5 videos a week to 3 videos a week. And then I cut down to 1 video a week because I just didn't have time to keep doing so much work. And people got annoyed that I'd cut down from 5 videos a week to 1 video a week. And I said, well, YouTube doesn't pay me enough money to be able to do that, you know, to be able to do 5 videos a week. I've got to make an income. And so I'm having to make e-courses, and the e-courses took me a long time to make, and I had to put a lot of focus on them. And they were like, well, you shouldn't be doing it for the money. You should be doing it because that's what you're supposed to do. That's what's expected of you. And there were some people that were very entitled in terms of the way they talked about it. And even now there's occasionally people that are like, I've scheduled premieres, and they've been like, I don't want it as a premiere. I want to watch this now. Why is it not available for me to watch now? If you've made it and you've uploaded it, I should be allowed to watch it now. And my view would be, well, if I just posted everything the second I've made it, you'd end up with like 1 week where there's 5 videos, and then a whole month where there's no videos, and then a week where there's 5 videos, and then a month where there's no videos. And that's not particularly good for YouTube's algorithms or for anything. You know, people wouldn't watch 5 videos back to back necessarily. They'd watch one and then forget that the other 4 existed, because there's lots of other creators posting stuff as well. So yeah, so normally I obviously just ignore all these kind of comments, or just give a quick reply. But but yeah, so I think that's one of the reasons why some creators haven't made these videos, and why I wanted to make a video to kind of raise the issue. So even though it hasn't yet happened to me, I'm kind of trying to get out there and preempt it a bit and think, if it happens to me, you'll know, it won't come as a complete surprise. Because it is a shame that it's happening to some of the people it's happening to, because I know that there are a lot of people that like their videos and find their videos incredibly helpful, and their videos should be out there being able to be watched, not kind of cancelled or, you know, stopped being able to be posted on YouTube because of the fact that they can't make enough income from doing so. And unfortunately, there still isn't any alternative place to do it. So anyway, it's been an hour. Don't know if anyone's got anything else they want to talk about while I happen to be live. Just because I happen to be here. I assume probably not. Am I ever going to game again? I've no idea. From time to time, I try and play games. I don't have a lot of time to do it. Most of the time, I'm too busy working and not actually having time to just sit down at a console. But I like playing computer games when I get a chance and having a break. And in terms of doing it on stream, that's even more difficult for a couple of reasons. One is because most of the people that would engage in the stream would watch it late at night. And if I stream gaming, I'd rather do it at sort of 10 or 11 a.m., not 10 at night or 11 at night, you know, going through to midnight or something. I'd rather just get it done kind of at 10 or 11 a.m. during the day when I'm awake. The other difficulty is setting all the equipment up. Obviously, I'm all set up for chatting and for doing things like this, but I'm not really set up for gaming. So I'd have to set it up in the... I don't really do PC gaming at all, or I don't do any PC gaming. So if I was to do the gaming, I always do it through my PS5, which means that I have to set my laptop up in the front room, have to set it all up so that I can be on screen and everything and all that sort of stuff of using OBS and everything, so that you can have me on screen and the game on screen and everything. I then have to wire the TV up to, or the PlayStation up to my laptop, while also obviously having it go through to the TV, so that I can stream onto the laptop while I'm playing, looking at the TV, so that I don't have any lag or anything. So So it just ends up being a big setup that is a lot of hard work. If I was a gaming a gaming channel, or doing a gaming channel that was making money or something, then I would probably set up a separate, for example, in this room, I'd perhaps, for example, put, I don't know, my PlayStation 4, which I don't use now, underneath the desk, wire everything up, and then maybe do it that way. Or just get into PC, get a separate kind of setup and do PC gaming. And I've thought of doing that. So recently, because obviously I can use this laptop in here for that and do it all on one screen potentially. Ideally, I'd need a second screen. It'd be easier, but potentially I could, for example, do Minecraft or something on here. But it's it's more just the difficulty with setting it all up and then having to take it all down again every single time I do the stream, and that I would prefer to be doing the streaming at like 10 or 11 in the morning my time, rather than doing the streaming trying to tie it in with when I think most of my audience are watching, and so doing it at kind of 10 o'clock at night my time. Yeah, that'd be funny, watching Kit's reaction to me playing GTA. He'd be horrified, especially with my nice polite driving and everything. I still want to hold a physical gathering one day, probably somewhere like London, just because it's more central for people to get to, even though I'm not a fan of big places and built up places. But I know that anyone who travels, say, from the north down into London, from the south up into London, anyone, although very slim, anyone who flies into London would be able to obviously just get off at like Gatwick or Heathrow or whatever and very easily travel into London. So London's obviously a ridiculously easy place to converge on. It costs more for venues, but then you can also find pubs and do something in a pub, like in an upstairs pub room or something, which might be a bit cheaper. But yeah, so I still do want to do some kind of live gathering, but I'd want to make sure I give people lots of notice for it. Part of the challenge, though, is obviously trying to have a big enough audience that I think enough people would attend. Because, as I've mentioned before, when I was trying to run the free practice groups, I never managed to get many people attending. So even though it was completely free, I couldn't get that many attendees. So when I ran them in Chichester, I was doing all the organising and everything, and the Chichester ones. No, I was running them in Littlehampton, so just down the road. Bognor, just down the road from Chichester, because I was able to access the library for quite cheap, for about £100 a day. And so I was paying £100 a day, and I had some days where there was one person attending, and the maximum I think was 7 attendees. So I had anywhere between 1 and 7 people attending a free event, a whole day free event of training with me, face-to-face training with me, where you also get to ask. So some of it was sometimes, some bits that I would plan, right, I'm going to cover this, this, and this. But a lot of it was just ask me what you want to learn today, and whatever it is you want, that's what I'll cover and teach and share with you, and we'll practice and stuff. And yet I managed to get one person attending some days, up to 7 people as a maximum. And then Tony helped me set it up in London, saying, well, maybe if you ran it in London, more people would attend because it's more central, etc. And so I ran it at a university in London, and even at this university in London, I only managed to get about, I think, 10 or 12 people attend. So not enough people attended. I had to charge for that. I think I charged £5 a person or something like that, because the university in London was a lot more to pay for, and I had to pay for travel for me to get the train to London and back every day. But yeah, I did like 6 months of that, and it was the same, that I couldn't get enough attendees to make it break even though I was only charging a very minimal amount. So I'm happy to do a live event, but I need to know that I can either interest enough people in wanting to meet me. And obviously I've done live streams, and another reason for doing the live stream on this channel, as well as the fact I was interested in the fact I've never done a live stream on this channel, so I thought I want to do at least one and see that it works on this channel. And another reason was that I didn't want everyone to unsubscribe from my main channel because I've gone live on there, because that has a tendency of happening. And I'm very close to hitting 100,000, and I'd quite like to reach 100,000, not keep stepping back because I do something like posting live videos. So obviously with my sleep story creation sessions, a lot of people were like, we don't care about you, we just want the stories. We don't care about who you are, anything about your life or about you, information about you. They didn't want to know me as the creator. And so that's kind of the other issue, is if I run a live thing, if my audience generally, so not everyone, but if the bulk of my audience generally think of me as not a particularly nice person, as I've had told to me when I was doing the live streams on the other channel, where they would say, things like, you're boring and you come across really horribly, and all these sort of things that they would say when I was asking why people were unsubscribing every time I went live. And there was a lot of negativity from people, and a lot of people saying, if you don't stop going live, I will unsubscribe as well. So I know that people don't like me as a creator, in terms of, I'm not saying everyone, I'm just saying generically here. I know that people don't like me as a creator, and however I come across, I don't come across like other sleep story creators who seem to have engaging audiences who say, oh, you're such a nice, kind person, and we like you as a creator. And I know I'm not one of those creators. I'm someone who has always in life come across as not particularly likable, not someone that people resonate with, the person who no one remembers when everyone goes off from a party or something. It's like, oh yeah, Dan, forgot that he was here as well. So the person that I like blending into the background, obviously, but at the same time, it's at least nice to know that maybe someone there thinks you're a decent human being, given that I do actually try to be a decent human being and do what makes people happy. But I know that's not how I'm perceived. I'm not saying everyone, I'm saying by a good chunk of people. So there are people who are very kind and caring and very supportive. Many of you in the live chat and supporting on Patreon and stuff. But I am aware that that's the bit that I have to kind of overcome if I'm doing a live event. So, for example, I've mentioned this before, that one of my reasons, and I spoke to Ellen about it before when she's mentioned in some of the comments, about my reason for bringing forward the sleep stories, the time it goes live, to 11 p.m. my time instead of 3 a.m. my time like it used to be. The reason for it moving to 11 p.m. was because I had no UK audience, really. Nearly all my audience is US, and so it'd go live at 3 a.m. because most viewers watch my videos, my sleep videos, from about 4 a.m. through till 8 a.m. So kind of when it's bedtime-ish for people across the US. And so I was trying to get to go to events over here, again, to try and build some kind of an audience that I can go and see, because I like sharing knowledge, and so I like going, and I don't really like this whole being on camera thing. I'm very uncomfortable with it, and I'm very uncomfortable with like Zoom type of thing. So even if all of you were chatting backwards and forwards with me, that's more uncomfortable. I'm much more comfortable face to face, where I can try and read the whole of your body language and try and really understand what's going on and a real-time reaction to me and what I'm saying and doing. And so I'd much rather be face-to-face with everyone. And I was told that I can't get a slot as doing much. I've been on a panel Summer in the City, and I've obviously been on a panel at Comic-Con and things like that, but I was told I can't get my own slots unless there's evidence that I can have an audience that would want to attend to meet me and, you know, get signed books and signed merch, or, you know, whatever it happens to be, you know, photos with me, whatever it is, that the things like Summer in the City and all these other kind of the YouTube events and things, that's what they want. They want to know people are coming to see creators, so they want the creator to want to be seen. Yeah, that'll be the fear, is you'll walk in, and as soon as you walk in and see me, you'll be covering your eyes and thinking, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm going to cover my eyes until I'm ready to be hypnodanned. But yeah, it's so that was when they said to me, look, change your hours of the posting so that more UK people, your videos go live at a time more UK people are perhaps trying to go to sleep. And I tried to make it not too early. So I thought 10 o'clock is too early for the 3 a.m. change that I've made. So I thought 11 o'clock is kind of a good enough time, because if you're having sleep problems, you're probably trying to go to sleep at, say, 11 o'clock at night. And then at maybe 12 or 1, you're thinking, I'm going to see if there's something on YouTube I can use to help me. But yeah, so obviously I've been trying to build a bit of a UK following so that I can run events, because I can hopefully then have a lot of people saying, oh, I'd love to meet you. Wish you'd do something live. I'd love it, like a live meditation event, or, you know, hypnosis event, or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, it's something I still want to do. And it's just trying to make sure that there's enough interested people so that if I do it, it's not going to be, you know, Dan and Holly sit in a room with 32 chairs or something, all empty, and enough food for 30 people, and only 2 of us there to consume it all. You know, 32 people's worth of chocolate or something. But yeah, so the plan is to still, I hope, to do some live stuff. Yeah, loads of food, and no one to eat it. A table full of Jaffa cakes or something. But yeah, so it's trying to come across, I don't know, if I could figure out how to come across as a nice person on the internet, that would probably help. I try not to answer people's comments now so that I don't come across horribly, because I'm aware that when I answer people's comments, that seems to wind people up. So recently, I've been, over the last sort of couple of months, whenever there's like negative comments, not negative in a bad way, but just comments where I could perhaps have replied in the past explaining the answer to whatever the comment is, I now just ignore the comment and don't even bother answering, even if I feel that my answer would just help the person understand whatever it is that they're commenting on, because I don't want to end up coming across negative to the person and then have the person get all angry and stroppy when I didn't realize I was saying something wrong. So yeah, there's a lot of comments that I've just been ignoring and not even bothering replying to, for that reason. And where I get a chance, I obviously try and reply to all the positive comments, normally just by saying thank you, and trying to figure out, like, the challenge is when you've got, if I post something and whatever it is I've posted has led to perhaps a dozen people say something nice back to back, like, oh, your sleep stories are so helpful to me, you know, whatever it is, and I've got multiple variations of that back to back, and I wake up in the morning and I see them. The challenge is, how do I say thank you without it looking like it's copy and pasted? You know, how do I write thank you to every one of these? Like, thank you, I'm glad they've been helpful. Thank you, I'm glad this has helped. Thank you, I'm glad the stories have helped. It's how do I write? How many variations of that kind of sentence can I write so that they don't just think you've gone through this morning and copy and pasted or used the auto. YouTube gives you, gives creators an auto answer option to try and make our job as a creator so much easier. They give an auto answer option that has like a whole bunch of artificially intelligently designed answers. Some are really simple, like thank you. Others are, it works out that someone mentioned a specific type of thing, and so it then has a slightly changed answer based on what it thinks a suitable answer would be. But yeah, I don't want to come across like I'm just using the auto answer that YouTube gives me. So obviously when it's just one answer there to respond to, that's fine. But when there's like a lot of answers have cropped up, a lot of questions have cropped up on the same, or comments have cropped up on the same video or the same community post, I don't want it to look when someone's scrolling down the comments like, oh, every single one just says thank you. So that is that's, I find that a challenge. It's good when there's something more that I can actually reference in the answer. But yeah, it's, I personally am in my opinion of me is that I've never ever been intentionally rude to anyone on the internet ever in any answer I've ever given. I've only ever directly answered people's questions, and even then I've tried to answer people's questions rereading what I'm writing to try and think, right, how can I make sure this doesn't sound rude. I've heard of Golden Girls and never ever watched it. I think normally the only time I answer negative comments now is either if it's well, mainly if it's something where I feel that yeah, I'm going to go in a minute too. Mainly if it's something where I feel that I want to correct a misunderstanding in the comment. So if someone comments in a very insular kind of way where they're kind of, I don't know, like if someone says I don't know, if you don't do this kind of content that I want, then no one is going to watch your videos because that's what everyone wants. When that isn't necessarily the case, that one person's experience of whatever it is, like whatever video I've made or whatever, isn't everyone's experience. So things like that, I will sometimes respond to, because not always, but sometimes respond to, just to point out or correct that, yeah, actually that's an incorrect statement. I did have an old lady yesterday say to me, so I went to a family meeting yesterday, a family kind of gathering of distant relatives who I have, don't even remember the names of most of them, but who we never really meet. And one of them has a new partner, and the new partner was sat down next to me and we were talking, and then the topic of autism came up. I obviously brought the topic up, but it was in relation to what was being discussed. And then they were like, oh, that's really interesting. And then they ended up talking about how, yeah, but you probably got a long way in life because you're so attractive. And it's like, okay, so I've got like a 75-year-old woman here, a partner of someone else, hitting on me, banging on about how attractive I am. So it's like irritating. It's that whole sort of, oh, you're cute, aren't you? I always used to get that when I was growing up from old people. Would always be the, oh, aren't you so sweet? Or and when I was in my 20s, it would always be, would you go out with my daughter's daughter, and things like that. It's yeah, you'd be a very good match for them. No, I wouldn't know. very happy with my life without being set up by old grandparents. So anyway, thank you all for joining me here. It has been nearly an hour and a half. Obviously, the main purpose of this was just so most people won't have made it this far in. I know. So most people won't have made it this far in. But yeah, the beginning's really the important part of this video, was just to raise awareness for those who didn't know, and to kind of show, I don't know, solidarity or whatever the right word might be, with others who are perhaps in that kind of situation. And I know I'm not very good at it. Well, I feel like it's a waste. I feel like if I've come on here and I've done the bit I'm here for, and I know that's probably going to take 20 to 30 minutes to talk about it and answer any questions about it, and then I think, well, I'm here, it feels a waste to say, right, that's 30 minutes, goodbye. It feels like, why would you do that? People have got me here, why don't I stay a bit longer? And this is short, relatively speaking. So yeah, so obviously the important part of this was just the beginning part, was just making people aware that there's this problem going on in YouTube that's kind of being a bit irritating, that may or may not end up impacting my channels, but is definitely impacting especially a lot of smaller channels, some of which are successfully challenging the issue, some are challenging it, being successful, and then ending up being hit with exactly the same problem again and then failing. So it's just something I think people need to be aware of who watch these kind of channels, and people kind of need to be aware of or need to know there's other creators out there in the same situation, that any one creator who has this happen to them isn't alone. Actually, they're not the only one who this problem has happened to. So I think there's that tendency, I've had it as well, like with the ad revenue thing, where you think, literally, am I the only one who's getting adverts in the middle of my videos? I don't hear anyone else talk about the issue. And so you kind of want others to talk, other creators to talk about it, so that you think, oh, good, there are videos of others talking about it. And then your audience says in the chats, yeah, oh yeah, so and so that I watch their videos, they've had it happen as well. So it's kind of raising the issue so that other creators also, if it happens to them, know they're not alone. It's happening to more people, and maybe they can then come together and link up and address it. So anyway, thank you for watching me for 90 minutes. I will have, what day are we on? Sunday. Yeah, my next video is obviously going live on Tuesday on my main site, on my main channel. Yeah. So good day or night or whatever it is for different people in different places, or morning, I don't know, for different people. I will see you in the next video.